Trump's newest comments have completely reshaped expectations about the $2,000 tariff dividend payments. Just 24 hours ago, he confirmed that Americans should not expect these checks before Christmas or the 2025 holiday season. When reporters directly asked him if the checks would arrive in time for holiday shopping, he said, "No, not for this year. It'll be sometime during the year next year." This is the clearest timetable he has given so far. News outlets immediately published headlines stressing that the checks are now expected in 2026, not late 2025. Trump emphasized that these payments are tied to tariff revenue, and while he claims the tariff system is bringing in substantial money, he reiterated that distributing checks this year is not possible. This announcement matters because millions of Americans believed the payments were imminent after his earlier statements in rallies and press events. Trump has proposed that the checks would go to most Americans, excluding high-income earners, and has presented the plan as a way to help households facing inflation and higher consumer costs. Trump wants the dividend to be part of a larger economic strategy, giving relief to citizens while using leftover tariff revenue to reduce the nation's rising debt, which he noted has reached $37 trillion. The delay to 2026 signals that the administration needs more time to finalize legislative, financial, and legal components before any payments become reality. The White House has now clarified its stance, stating clearly that President Trump is committed to issuing $2,000 tariff dividend checks to American families. This statement was made after days of confusion caused by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant, who appeared uncertain about whether checks would be issued or if the relief would instead come through tax changes like eliminating taxes on tips or overtime. In a significant shift, Bessant now supports the check proposal and confirmed that the administration is reviewing an income limit of under $100,000, which could make up to 150 million families eligible. This directly aligns with Trump's messaging that the payments should target middle-income and lower-income Americans. This updated stance from the White House is important because it signals that internal disagreements are narrowing. At first, the Treasury Department seemed hesitant, suggesting alternative policy tools. Now, the administration speaks with one voice. They want the check sent out, and they believe tariff revenue can make it possible. However, the final eligibility rules, income thresholds, and payment structure have not been written into law. The fact that the White House is openly discussing a family income cap and a target population indicates that planning is moving from conceptual ideas toward legislative details, even though no bill has been introduced yet. A major development came when Kevin Hassett, a respected economic advisor and director of the National Economic Council, stated that there is enough tariff revenue to fund the $2,000 dividend checks. He explained that the government collected $195 billion in customs duties in the 2025 fiscal year, which is more than 250% higher than the preceding year. According to the Congressional Budget Office, tariffs could generate $4 trillion over the next decade. This is the first time a senior figure within the administration has acknowledged that the funds appear sufficient if Congress authorizes the program. Hassett told reporters that his team is actively studying the matter and preparing calculations so that the president has the full menu of options. However, independent analysts strongly disagree on whether the plan is financially feasible. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimated that stimulus-style $2,000 checks would cost about $600 billion, which is roughly double what tariffs are currently producing. Another expert calculated that if households earning above $100,000 are excluded, the cost could still reach close to $300 billion, which is more than what tariffs have generated so far. This debate forms the financial core of the argument. Supporters believe long-term tariff revenue is enough, while critics argue that relying on tariffs alone creates a large funding gap that may require debt increases or budget cuts. Current discussions indicate that the $2,000 payments are intended for middle-income and lower-income Americans, with high earners excluded. The most widely discussed threshold comes from Secretary Bessant, who said the administration is leaning toward a $100,000 income cap, For families, Trump himself has said repeatedly that the payments are not for high-income earners. Although no final eligibility criteria exist yet, these remarks give a clear idea of the target group. Households struggling with inflation, high food prices, rising rents, and weakened purchasing power. The proposal also links the dividend to national debt policies. Trump has stated that all remaining revenue from tariffs, after the $2,000 payments are issued, would be directed toward paying down the national debt. This is part of his messaging that tariffs are generating massive income for the country, despite economists warning that tariffs can increase consumer prices for everyday goods. While the income caps and eligibility framework appear straightforward, the fact that no legislative text exists means everything is preliminary. Eligibility rules will ultimately depend on Congress, not just public statements. No matter how strong the White House's commitment might be, these checks cannot be issued unless Congress formally authorizes the payments. This is exactly how the COVID-era stimulus checks were distributed, through legislation passed by both chambers. Complicating matters further, the Supreme Court is currently reviewing several legal challenges to Trump's tariff policies. If the court rules that certain tariffs were implemented improperly, the very revenue Trump wants to use for the checks could be invalidated or reduced, undermining the entire program. This makes the legal landscape just as important as the political one. Congress remains a major obstacle. Many Republican lawmakers prioritize lowering the national debt and reducing federal spending. Analysts have said that issuing new payments contradicts that goal and may be viewed as symbolic rather than a substantial stimulus. Some have argued that if the administration cannot secure bipartisan support, it might attempt to use budget reconciliation, which requires only a simple majority. However, reconciliation is limited in scope and subject to strict rules, so relying on it is far from guaranteed. These combined legal and legislative barriers make it clear why the checks cannot come before 2026. Economists have warned that while a $2,000 check may help families temporarily, tariffs raise the price of imported goods, meaning Americans could effectively pay back part of the dividend through higher prices. Tariffs are applied at the border but passed down to consumers in the form of increased costs for food, clothing, electronics, appliances, and household essentials. This creates a complex situation where the government gives out a check, but inflationary pressure may erode the relief. Despite this concern, many middle-income and lower-income families see the $2,000 payment as meaningful support, especially during periods of economic strain. Looking forward, the future of the plan depends on three major factors: congressional approval, Supreme Court decisions, and the administration's ability to finalize a funding framework. The White House continues to say the president is committed, and advisors like Kevin Hassett maintain that the numbers could work with proper legislation. But as of now, there is no bill, no formal eligibility guidelines, and no payment calendar beyond Trump's sometime in 2026 statement. The proposal remains in the discussion and planning stage. Viewers should stay alert for updates, especially as Congress debates new budget packages and the court prepares rulings that could determine whether the tariff-based funding survives. Before we wrap up, let me know in the comments what you think will happen next with these $2,000 dividend checks. Your feedback helps others learn too. And if you want daily, clear updates on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, SNAP, Medicare, and everything happening in Washington, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Social Security Post. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.